Hello guys, and welcome to a new Still Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you the Battlegroup preview for the 7th Armoured, also known as the Desert Rats, in the Back to Hell DLC. Now just a note to start off with, stats and balance are subject to change due to this video being recorded on the pre-release build, so this isn't a Battlegroup overview in where I tell you guys how I would build the division, but more just a quick look at the units and a preview of them and some of the new statistics we're working with. So starting off in the Recon tab, we have Recce in the Stuart Recce. Not particularly anything new here. The Stuart Recces though coming in Phase A as 2-star though is pretty damn strong. And I'll expect to see the Stuart Recces ripping infantry squads to shreds in the early phases of a 7th Armoured game. We also have Stuart 5s available, and these are Recon Stuarts. They're 110 points a piece though, very expensive. And I guess Phase A may look like this, in that you only bring in the Recce squads and maybe one of the Stuarts 5 with the 2-star veterancy, because I don't see the point of paying that much for lower veterancy. Maybe for the availability, but you're going to want to save the availability for your Phase B Recon as well, where you get more 2-star Stuart Recces with Recce and also a Cromwell Recon, which could supplement your normal tank quite nicely. So that's your Recon tab. Relatively small amount of choice, but interesting units for sure. And kind of gives us a basis for what you're going to see in the rest of the division, which is quite high veterancy. So the reason I emphasize that moving into the infantry tab is because the infantry of the Desert Rats is damn high compared to some of the other British divisions. We have, of course, the Desert Rats, which have awesome HE at close range, 12 HE, and then have 2 Bren guns to engage at longer ranges. They also have 2 smoke grenades, which allows them to get around quite nicely. And for a 6-man squad, these guys are pretty damn strong. And the 2-star veterancy helps them out as well. So awesome stuff. They come in the white truck, which is actually armoured as well. So that's helpful, getting them to the front line. Then we have the Motorized Rifles. Everyone's seen Motorized Rifles before, nothing new. But these guys are 1-star veterans. And then we have the Motorized Rifle Leader, which comes in another 2-star Stuart Ream, which is absolutely crazy. You can have so many of these hanging about for the Desert Rats, and they are going to rip to shreds enemy infantry for sure. So your Phase A is probably actually going to look something like that, unless you want to maybe cull a unit of Motorized Rifles in Phase A for more availability down the line. In Phase B, more Desert Rats are available. You've also got your access to Vickers HMGs, more Motorized Rifles, more Motorized Rifle Leader, and you also have the Field Engineers here. And these guys are really awesome. They have 9 HE on 3 Sten guns, 1 guy's manned with a flamethrower, and they have 4 smoke grenades. So a 4-man infantry or 4-man flamethrower squad with 4 smoke grenades, which is very cool, means they are going to stay alive. And then they have a Wasp Mark II, which is also 2 stars as well. And this is a combination that is absolutely going to shred towns. So watch out for these guys. They're going to be very strong indeed. Moving into Phase C, I think it's all going to just be about rifle availability. But you can get access to a Rifle Leader, which comes with the Piat there. And then you have basically high veteran rifles. And you have the Field Engineers once again. So working out the infantry tab I think is going to be pretty hard because you have so many good choices. But I think in the later phase it's just going to be about availability, and in the Phase A and B it's going to be all about the punch, because if you look at the income, you get high income in Phase A, high income in Phase B, and then it falls off in Phase C. So having too much availability in Phase C will definitely be a bad idea in this division. So let's move on to the tank tab. So first of all, we have the Abbot of Chantry. Betts was telling me about how this was previously a training tank that was accidentally taken into the front line, and the crew loved it because it moved really quickly, but then they found out it had no armor, which is the reason why it moves so quickly. And it's been replicated in this game by the increased speed. You can see that's 48 km/h off-road speed and 4 front armor. So the armor's not great, but it literally matches the speed of a Hellcat. Hellcat has 50 km/h off-road speed, so there's that. Awesome little command tank there to lead your Cromwells into battle. Nothing new with these Cromwell 5s. Moving into Phase B, you can get 2-star Cromwell 4s commands, which are very cool. They can be accompanied by 1-star Cromwell 7s, and I think that's a combination we're going to see quite a lot. We're going to have like Abbot of Chantry and Cromwell in Phase A, then we're going to have like Command Cromwell 4s with Cromwell 7s in Phase B. Then what we're going to see is in the later game, the Fireflies come in, the 2-star Fireflies, maybe some of the Cromwell 3s as well, because they match the income of Phase C, and can obviously do work at closer ranges if they can get into that position. So that's probably what it's going to look like in the tank tab, but some interesting units, and this is the first time that we've actually seen a 2-star Firefly available, which is obviously going to lead to a 3-star Firefly if you have command nearby, and that could be very, very strong indeed. Very much looking forward to seeing these guys in action. Let's move over to the support tab. So in the support tab we have Bedford Supplies, we have Staghounds. I actually am genuinely curious to see if people are going to bring in these Staghounds, because Staghounds were a big part of the competitive nature of the first Panzerner. So I'm not sure if these guys cost a little bit too much, but they could definitely have a position in this division, in the early game at least. They have a decent rate of fire, and they're fantastic for cleaning up lighter armoured pushes out of the Axis in the early game for a cheaper cost than something like a Cromwell. Then into Phase B we have access to Dingoes, we have the Bedford Supply, Cromwell 6s are then available, and that goes the same in Phase C with more availability. And these Cromwell 6s will really open up the map, I think, for the 7th Armoured in Phase B, allow them to take out those 1,200 meter range AT guns and really do the job. The punching power of the 7th Armoured in Phase B is going to be absolutely crazy, and it gets even better in the anti-tank tab. So moving over to the anti-tank tab, we have the 75mm SP Autocar M3, which is the only AT you can get in Phase A. So be wary of that, no AT guns available at all, so no ambushing opportunities. You're just going to have to rely solely on your vehicles, which is an interesting style of play for sure, but not something you can't do with the Cromwell 5s, so that's what you're going to be relying on. Then into Phase B, you do get access to 2-star 6-pounders and 2-star SP Autocar M3s, but better than that, you get access to Achilles, and these guys have 16 AP for Phase B. And you can get a 1-star version as well, which will obviously be a 2-star version with the command. And a 2-star 16 AP 6 accuracy gun in Phase B is extremely strong against Axis armor. So make good use of this, accompany it with some lighter tanks, and your Achilles should do some serious work. Into Phase C, I think it's going to be all about the 17-pounders, since your Achilles are replaced with Fireflies in Phase C. So that's pretty much your lot for the anti-tank, at least. Achilles going to be coming out to play in this division. I can't wait to see these in action. They're actually overshadowed quite a bit at the moment by the Fireflies, because they tend to come in at the same phases. But Achilles actually being useful in Phase B is going to be something we're going to be seeing in the future with this division. So that's very, very cool indeed. Now let's move on to the anti-air tab, where we can see we have access to Staghound AAs, Crusader AA Mark IIs, nothing new there. And we also have a Bofors Portee, again nothing new, but this one does have 2-star veterancy, and I think accompanied by maybe a Crusader AA Mark II, this Bofors Portee could definitely pick up some serious kills in Phase A, or do some serious damage to enemy aircraft early in the game. In Phase B, I think it's just going to be important to accompany your tanks with the Crusader AA Mark IIs, because they have the really good mobility and the same speed as your other tanks, like the Cromwells. So they accompany them well. The Bofors Portee is fantastic, it just doesn't have any armour. So this would be something that's a bit more defensive. And I guess we might see them in Phase C sometimes, but otherwise I would probably just stick to the 3 slots for the anti-air. Moving into the artillery, 2-star 2-inch carriers in Phase A. These guys can actually be really, really strong because they already have a really high rate of fire, right, at 15 rounds per minute, which is crazy. So imagine a 2-star version where the rate of fire is buffed, and these can put down a lot of smoke, a lot of firepower very quickly. You also have a 3-inch mortar, which is the 1,200 meter range version, and I expect to see that come out a lot as well in Phase A. One thing to note though is that you only have 3 slots to work with, so sort of sacrificing the 2-inch mortar carrier for the 3-inch mortar is going to be a choice that you guys are going to have to make. In Phase B, this 4.2-inch mortar really excited me because it's a 16 HE power mortar with a 1,600 meter range, but it's 2-star, which isn't really something that we've seen before. And that means that the rate of fire of this could be very, very high indeed, and you could provide smoke support from quite far away. The only issue with it being so high rate of fire is it's going to get through its low ammunition relatively quickly, and some people will generally just prefer to bring in sextons instead, and I wouldn't be surprised to see like double sexton 25 pounders as the artillery lineup, although not having mortars in Phase A could really hurt you, so it probably looks something more like this across the board, or even something like this using the less experienced sextons in Phase B. But that's just the artillery tab, and then finally we have the air tab, which is actually quite large for an armoured division. But we're seeing some new Mosquito variants, which is very cool. This is the Recon Mosquito, doesn't have any armaments, very fast though. Painted black because it's generally used at night. No night battles in Steel Division though, although that would be a pretty cool idea thinking about it, but maybe quite hard to implement and hard to see and hard to manage, honestly. Anyway, Spitfire Mark 9 is following that up with the 10 HE power bomb, and you're more likely to see the Spitfire Mark 9s in Phase A as opposed to the Mosquito Recons. You can get Mosquito fighters, and I think these have the potential to do a lot of damage, honestly. 160 points can really rip to shreds enemy aircraft. Don't suffer from a lack of speed at all. 650 km/h speed compared to Mosquito Pathfinder with like a payload, for example, which only has a 600 km/h speed. So Mosquito is going to be very, very fast. High HE. But anyway, moving into Phase B, we also have the extra Spitfire Mark 9s. These guys have 2 15 HE power bombs, so definitely your AT killers, and of course the Mosquito Pathfinder that I already pointed out. However, I'm not entirely sure or convinced we're actually going to see the Mosquito Pathfinder be used. We also have 2-star Mitchells in this division. This is a completely new model. If I just take off the HUD for a sec, we can have a good look at this Mitchell. Very, very awesome model. However, I'm not entirely convinced how useful these are going to be. Fortunately, they do have the 2-star veterancy, so AA isn't going to like force them to fall back very quickly. But they have 8 10 HE power bombs, and that is not a lot of firepower for, you know, what was quite a decent bomber. So yeah, I don't know, I'm a little bit disappointed by the payload on these guys. I think 8 15 HE power bombs might have been nicer, but otherwise I don't think these are going to be used terribly often. Moving into Phase C, we then have more Mosquito fighters, and we also have the Rocket Mosquito, which is awesome, honestly. I'm very much looking forward to seeing these come out. Pretty expensive plane for Phase C in this division, but these guys have 8 20 HE power rockets, which I believe is 5 HE more than like a Thunderbolt, for example, with rockets. So I reckon these could do a lot of damage, and this can also act as a fighter as well, due to it still maintaining the 600 km/h speed and similar stats to the Mosquito fighter. So yeah, interesting unit for sure, and we might see them in the future. But there you go, guys, that is the 7th Armoured. Quick preview of the units. Not sure a battle group's going to really look like this in the future. Obviously, balance changes will probably come in. I reckon we'll see quite a lot of veterancy nerfs on the 7th Armoured when they come into public play. But either way, that's it for now, guys. Hopefully you've appreciated the quick preview of the 7th Armoured. Not many new units, but either way, an interesting one nonetheless. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.